here on Capitol Hill, we're waiting for the mass exodus after the vote we just talked about because there is not an infrastructure vote. There is not one happening tonight. They've pulled the plug. It's going to happen, they say, next week, but that's not locked in because there were a lot of moving parts. You had the president pleading with Democrats to get together and give him a vote as he's on Air Force One heading to two big summits over in Europe, and he wanted that. He's not getting it, at least not tonight. Let's bring in our panel. Jason Riley, Wall Street Journal columnist and senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. Leslie Marshall, Democratic strategist, and Guy Benson, political editor at townhall.com, host of the Guy Benson Show on Fox News Radio. Guy, I'm sitting here with Congressman Dean Phillips. We're getting word that it's all falling apart and they're not voting, and he's disappointed and can't believe that they went through all this today and didn't finally get the vote.
Well, this is an embarrassment for the Democrats. There's no getting around that, right? They were raising expectations. At the leadership level, we heard the president making a direct appeal. There was talk about a vote today, giving him a victory in hand as soon as he lands in Europe. And that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow, it sounds like. Maybe it will happen next week. And one piece of this, Bret, it's all a Democrat show. They run Washington, D.C. right now. The one thing that might help Nancy Pelosi in the coming days is a handful of Republicans in the House who want to vote for the bipartisan infrastructure bill. I think that conservatives across the country would urge those Republicans, even if on the merits you support the infrastructure bill, it has been linked inextricably by the Democratic leadership to this monstrosity, the Build Back Better plan, and to throw a lifeline to the Democrats when they clearly still don't have the votes within their own caucus, I think would be a massive miscalculation. But it was another rough, ugly day for the Democrats in Washington.
Yeah, the House just voted to pass that interim till December 3rd for the highway programs, as expected, but obviously no big vote. Leslie, what about what Guy just said there, the linkage of those two bills, and the progressives who said we are not voting until we see the text, until we know that it's going to pass, till we know that Senators Manchin and Sinema are not going to block some elements of it? That linkage caused the vote on the infrastructure bill to fall apart.
Listen, I have said from the beginning, you just can't have all of this. You need to have this separate. Infrastructure, that's a bipartisan win for the president, win for the country, win for our abysmal infrastructure system when you have so many Republicans saying we're on board with this. You know, I'm a centrist, I'm a moderate Democrat, you guys all know that. And, you know, I kind of feel like, you know, the progressive faction is holding the party hostage, especially when a lot of their demands or requests have been met. You heard Speaker Pelosi say, and you said rightly as well, Bret, they wanted to know the text. They've got the text. They wanted to have these two together. They have these two together. They wanted to have climate change. They got climate change. I think really who's leading the march on this is Bernie Sanders, because he doesn't like what's happening with the lowering of prescription drug prices. And, you know, you just can't have. President Biden is accurate. I think we all know that when you're in a meeting and you're in a negotiation, everybody walks away from the table getting something they want, but everybody also walks away leaving something on the table. And I just don't think the progressives realize this.
Well, that is exactly what the Virginia Democratic nominee for governor said about this whole thing and about what's happening overall. Take a listen.
Let me tell you what's happening right now, because I just happened to see a new Fox poll. You ready? Youngkin 53, McAuliffe 45. That's Virginians coming together. That's not.
We're going to win this race. Compromise is not a bad word. They just need to do their job and quit prancing around. Get in a room, get this passed. We need help here in the states.
Yeah, and they're not getting in a room, Jason. And as mentioned, in Buena Vista, sorry for the mispronunciation earlier, in Virginia, Glenn Youngkin referencing that poll, and let's show it. And it is a massive shift in just a number of days. And that is Glenn Youngkin on top, 53-45. We'll put it on the screen. And then the president's job approval rating is also upside down in that race in Virginia. And all of this, Jason, is contributing to this problem for Terry McAuliffe right next door to the Capitol that is dysfunctional.
Yes, it is, Bret. You know, the Democratic playbook these days is to try and turn your Republican opponent into a stand-in for Donald Trump. I don't know that it's going to work in Virginia. It might. I mean, Virginia has not elected a statewide Republican in a long time, so it could work. But Youngkin is not a Trumpkin. He's not someone who's embraced the former president's tactics and language and persona and so forth. So we'll see if it plays out. But I think he has tapped into something Youngkin has that Republicans would be wise to replicate nationwide. This issue of education was being taught to our children. It's something that is resonating with a lot of voters, particularly those suburban voters that Republicans are interested in bringing back into their ranks. And so I think even if this is a close race, even if Youngkin doesn't pull it out but is close in pulling it out, is something that a lot of Republicans should pay attention to, how he is running this campaign and what is resonating with voters all over the country.
Guy, just to come back full circle here to Capitol Hill, it's hard to overstate this moment today. I mean, we are watching the Biden presidency struggle to get the Democratic majorities in the House and Senate to do what they want them to do, anything, before he goes on this trip. I mean, he pleads with them and says, my presidency, the midterms are on the line. And those are his words.
Yep, and then this happened. It all sort of fell apart. I still think they're going to get something done here. It would be such a cataclysm for them politically not to. But it has been a very bumpy, rocky road. It doesn't seem like the president really has the juice. And the Democratic congressman that you just spoke with there on Capitol Hill, he actually referenced back to Virginia and the polling over there where, you know, in our new poll, double-digit lead for Youngkin among independents, parents, on the economy, on crime, up 8 on education, even up 1 on COVID. If those numbers are anywhere close to reflective of the electorate on Tuesday, it would make sense that Glenn Youngkin sounded so confident today on my radio show, and Terry McAuliffe has seemed so bitter and desperate the last week or two.
Good plug for the radio show there, by the way, Guy.
Get it in there.
And he said, by the way, the president, I don't think it's hyperbole to say that the House and Senate majorities and my presidency will be determined by what happens in the next week. We'll see what happens next week. When we come back, tomorrow's headlines with the panel. Finally tonight, a look at tomorrow's headlines with the panel. Leslie, first to you.
Arizona Democrats confirmed they didn't vote for Senator Sinema to ignore constituents, vote against Free Community College, and have photo ops with Republican senators like Mitt Romney. They're fed up, they've had enough, and they're strongly seeking her replacement.
All right, how about that? Jason?
Crime in New York City increases after vaccine mandates for police are implemented. I think we could see a real backlash here in these vaccine mandates for first responders, police, firefighters, and so forth. Cities have already seen an uptick in crime, problems in recruiting, and so forth, and I think these vaccine mandates could only exacerbate that situation.
All right, Guy.
Mitt Romney breaks the internet with his Halloween costume as Ted Lasso. This is A+ content. It's very on brand for Mitt Romney. Still awaiting word from Jason Sudeikis, who once played Mitt Romney on SNL.